The Stephen A. Smith Show.
Radio ESPN News, 888 say ESPN is always the number to call up. That's 888-729-3776. Let's go back to the phones. Thanks again to Ryan Clark, NFL analyst extraordinaire. Gave us a little bit of his basketball knowledge before we got back into some football. But let's get right back into it. Let's go to Ray. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Yeah, Stephen A.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, I can happily say that the Lakers will not make the playoffs, but I think too much blame has been put on LeBron and not enough on Magic and Rob Pelinka. And I sort of want to call you to the carpet just a little bit because you read on my radar behind Mike Mayock with the lack of experience, nepotism or whatever. But I can smile the same thing happened with Rob Pelinka having no experience and only getting hired due to his relationship with Kobe Bryant.
We'll stop right there. First of all, Rob Pelinka was an agent negotiating with general managers in the league for years. I didn't say he was the most qualified GM in the business. Magic Johnson is the one running basketball decisions. Rob Pelinka answers to him. So he's not the decision maker in that regard. He works the phones. He talks to different teams. He tries to get things done, but ultimately it's Magic Johnson. That pulls the strings. That's number one. You could sit up there and say the same about Mike Mayock, but the reality is that Mike Mayock, and I don't mean to cast any aspersions on him whatsoever. In the case of Mike Mayock, he is basically was doing what I do, what Adam Schefter and Jay Glazer and others have done in the world of football as a reporter and an insider. To go from that to being the general manager of a National Football League team with no experience whatsoever as an executive or no role in the front office of the NFL in any capacity to get that particular job, I got a problem with that.
Okay, I hear you, but I do feel that they haven't brought in the regular players to help LeBron.
Well, I definitely no. I agree with you there. I don't like the roster that was assembled. I don't think they went out there and got any shooters, to be quite honest with you. I think that could have gone a long way towards helping them be a bit more successful without question. As far as I'm concerned, even if you could have gotten Kyle Korver from Cleveland instead of going to Utah, you could have got him to come to L.A. or somebody else. I think that would have been helpful as well. So I definitely don't disagree with you to that point. I look at Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson as well because of the roster they assembled. The only reason why LeBron James is a pivotal subject is because LeBron James is the one voicing his displeasure with the parts around him. And in fact, LeBron James has had some slippage, obviously because of injury, and I don't think that could be ignored.
Okay, I hear you there. And my last point, man, the disrespect. Why can't my Blazers get any respect?
You know why? First of all, Dame time. I love Dame. I love Damian Lillard. Okay, there's no question about that. And CJ as well. I got a lot of love for the both of CJ McCollum. I got it. I get it. And their roster is really good. But we all know what's going to happen to the Blazers. They're going to go home in the second round at the latest if they're lucky. Last year, they won 49, 50 games. They were a third seed in the West and got blitzed, swept by the New Orleans Pelicans. When you're coming off something like that, it's going to be hard to garner respect.
Yeah, but I can say the same about Harden. He gets there and
Tell me, where was Harden last year? What was his last game?
I mean, he made it a little bit further.
No. No little further. Look, James Harden has been in semifinal series. He's been in conference final series. As a reserve, he was in a finals. Last year, he was in the Eastern Conference Finals. You can't compare that to Portland.
Wait, he probably had just a slightly better team, but with the progress and
I'm
maturation
going to stop you right there. Stop right there. You don't get to argue with me no more because you're saying slightly better. Being swept in the first round or going to Game 7, 48 minutes away from a trip to the NBA Finals. You're going to say that's slightly better? I don't have time for you right now. Have a nice day. You're not being accurate. You're going to be real on this show. You're going to be real on the Stephen A. Smith Show. You're not going to call up here with that nonsense. It's not going to happen. Let's go to DJ. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
How you doing, Stephen A. Smith?
I'm good. What's up?
Great. This was reaching out to you. I'm actually the older brother of one of the players that knelt at Ole Miss over the weekend.
Okay.
And I know I was watching First Take yesterday, and I noticed that Will Kane kept asking a specific question that really wasn't answered in the best that I felt. And so I know he kept asking, like, why specifically the American flag? Mm-hmm. And I know you said that because that's the biggest stage, obviously, to bring the most attention on this topic. And so I personally felt like that was a good answer, but it wasn't the best answer because I feel like, obviously, before the Confederacy came into play, Colin Kaepernick took a knee to the flag for racial injustice issues. And if that question comes up again, why the American flag, the Confederacy flag, doesn't come into play. So my answer to that would be because we still have issues that are here in America, like concerning the American flag, not the Confederacy flag.
What are the issues that we have concerning the American flag?
Social injustice issues.
Time out. But there's various things that point to social injustice issues in the United States of America. The flag isn't the only symbolic thing that's associated with racial injustice in the United States of America. So when he asked that question is what I'm trying to say. Why the flag? He wasn't acting as if there's no social injustice, there's no racial injustice, there's no racial inequality, there's no racism, there's no bigotry, there's no any of those things. What he was asking is, why is the flag the tool being used to bring attention to that as opposed to various other ways in which you can choose to bring attention to it? And my response was, in this day and age, in all likelihood, because of Kaepernick and the swarm that caused, it's going to garner the most attention, which is what you're after when you're protesting something.
Yes, and I think that's true, but I think more specifically, we still have to hold America accountable for these issues.
Once again, you're not touching the point. The fact of the matter is that there are a multitude of things that can be used to highlight that. The reason why the flag or issues surrounding the flag is a tool and a mechanism that would be used by most in this day and age is because it has proven to garner the most attention, which was my answer to Will Kane. So if you're going to protest something and you want attention brought to it, that would be the number one thing that you're using in this day and age, feeding off of Colin Kaepernick. How can you dispute that?
Well, not necessarily disputing it, but just was, making a small correction.
But it's not. But you're not succeeding in that regard because you still haven't given me something that could garner more attention. And if you're protesting, you're obviously looking for the attention, which is what the players did, rightfully so, I might add, and I 1,000% stand behind them. But the point is, we understand what their objective was, and they succeeded in doing so. Do you know of something else that they could have done to point the finger towards, to highlight their issues of the injustice that was being exercised and exacted against them by the pro-Confederacy groups that was spewing hatred and giving the impression that that kind of hatred existed on their campus? Do you know of something better they could have done?
I'm not convinced that we could have found something better, because number one.
Exactly. You're making my point. That's exactly the truth. You're not so sure they could have done something better, which is why I gave the answer to Will Kane that I did.
Absolutely. Okay.
All right. Have a nice day. And tell your brother I said thank you again. Good job on his part. Chris, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A. Good talking to you again. Real quick on what I saw from my legs. One thing I want to point out, the previous caller, not this last one, the one before that, you mentioned that you did not like the roster that's presently constructed with the Lakers.
Right.
And I remember for the season starter, you had our Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. So
yes, I did.
I feel like that's kind of contradicting.
I'm talking about. Not to me. I never liked the roster. I thought it was good enough to get to the conference finals because of LeBron James. But the reality is that when all is said and done, I've always clamored for more shooters. Magic Johnson's a witness to that. And anybody who's listened to me talk about the Lakers, I've always wanted an additional shooter or two. I definitely did ask the question as to why don't you have more shooters? But I still felt they could have made the conference finals because I wasn't high on Oklahoma City or Denver or Utah or Portland. So basically, I felt that the Lakers could get to the conference finals by default. It's not inconsistent.
Oh, right. No, you know what? You're right. You did say by default. I apologize.
Go ahead.
That's not why I called, but I just want to point that out. But a couple of things I'm seeing from my Lakers and LeBron. I think a lot of people everybody fails to point out Stephen A. His lack of effort, obviously, what we saw against Memphis, you pointed out him not going after loose balls after rebounds and all that stuff. That goes back to the conversation I had with you back when I called last week about setting the example. We've discussed that. But one thing that really sticks out to me, Stephen A., is obviously LeBron's not a great free throw shooter. We understand that, right?
Right.
But
around 68%, around 67, 68%, yeah.
It's horrible. But when I'm looking at my Twitter and I'm seeing the guy promoting a Space Jam 2 movie instead of in the gym working on his free throws, not saying he's not, but I'm saying if this is Kobe Bryant, if he was shooting 58%, you think he'd be promoting a movie? That's just a side note. But something that your friend Champ pointed out about LeBron being traded. You remember what I asked you about LeBron and Anthony Davis straight up trade? Do you remember what you told me?
I said no way in hell.
And you said because Magic does what? Magic owes LeBron what?
That's right. I don't recall, man. I do. You know how many conversations I have? Why do y'all do that to me? If you were talking 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, would you remember every word that you say?
Yeah.
Could y'all help me out just a little bit? Stop asking me those questions. Just state your point.
I got you. I was just saying if you were able to remember. But you mentioned, like you did to Champ, that Magic would reach out to LeBron and get the okay from LeBron before trading him. So my question to you and the Magic, if that is the case, is what if LeBron doesn't owe the city of Cleveland anything? What does the city of Los Angeles owe LeBron? You don't have to give me an answer now. But this is something.
No. I think they owe LeBron coming to L.A. because he made the Lakers relevant again. They should be thankful for having him. But in the end, you're a Laker. And when you wear that purple and gold, the tradition is championships. Every megastar that has ever worn a Lakers uniform outside of Elgin Baylor has delivered a championship. And the same onus is going to be placed on the shoulders of LeBron James, like it or not. And that's my ultimate point. I got to run, Chris. I appreciate the call, old man. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Your calls to close out the show in just a minute. By the way, if you missed the show today, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith podcast. Brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One. Hey, what's in your wallet? Back with your calls to close out the show in a minute.
Learn what affects your credit scores and what you can do to improve them with Credit Karma. Maybe you need to dispute an error on your credit report, or you're paying too much interest. Credit Karma can help with that. Visit creditkarma.com or download the app now. That's creditkarma.com.
Need game tickets? Find your seats at Vivid Seats.